Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm the Philosopher King 2.0. In this video, I'm going to argue that conservatives, libertarians, and Republicans in states like California, New York, and Illinois, despite being completely outnumbered in their own states by leftists, can nonetheless exert a lot more power over the affairs of our country and can actually save this country. And I'm going to explain this by using the 2020 electoral map with some caveats, because this is what I don't want to happen is people to think that this is just about Trump or Biden. It's not just about that. It's about the long-term trajectory of the country. And so all I'm doing is I'm using the 2020 map as sort of as a context to describe things. It pretty much goes without saying that California, New York, and Illinois have been voting Democrat for a very long time. But there's something really remarkable that you just don't really think about very often, and that is that there are actually more conservatives in states like California than there are in some of the smaller states combined. There are more conservatives in California than there are in Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada combined, and you can almost put in Georgia and Pennsylvania. So there are a lot of conservatives to go around. And I have to use. I don't want this to get too long because obviously conservatives can mean a lot of different things, and it's not necessarily going to be conservatives. I think there's libertarians who are going to be interested, who would be part of this as well. But the bottom line is that where they are living right now, they're doing no good on a national level, but they could do something. So I'm just going to go over some data here real quick. I want you to take a look here. Oops, I got to get rid of that. Sorry. There we go. So I went through and I created a spreadsheet. All right. So in this box here, you can see that California had 11 million people who voted for Biden. California had 6 million that voted for Trump. Okay. But I also want you to look at this number right here. Can you see that? In 2022, more than 300,000 of them left California, right? So 2 years after this election that we're looking at, 300,000 left. 360,000 left in 2021. You can see these numbers here, and then almost 300,000. So there's a mass exodus leaving California, but there is kind of a problem, and not that I blame them. And to illustrate, I want you to see this first here. Oops, keep turning off the wrong thing. Let's see here. I have it all primed and ready to go. There we go. Pull that in. Okay, Americans are leaving high tax New York and moving to Florida. But where are they going? Right? They're leaving to Florida and also scroll down there. Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So there's this mass exodus out of the very liberal states. This is, across the board. The more liberal the state, and I use that word very, very gingerly, the word liberal, and they're going to the conservative states. But let's go back and look at the map again. Keep clicking on the wrong things here. There we go. All the states that I just mentioned, Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, and Tennessee are all solidly solidly Republican. Now let's go back and look at that spreadsheet again. There we go. I want you to look at the margins here. Let's go here. Georgia lost 11,000 votes. That was the difference. Pennsylvania, it was 80,000. Michigan, 154,000. Wisconsin, 20,000. Arizona, 10,000. Nevada, 33,000. I'm going to set aside all the doubts and questions that we have about some of these figures. We're just going to accept them for the purpose of this. But if you see, here's our bank of 6 million surplus conservative or Republican voters in California in 2020. And if we begin subtracting the amount that are lost, that Trump lost in each of these years, the difference is only 311,000. In other words, the presidential race in 2020 was decided by only 311,257 people. That was the difference. In other words, if all the people who had left California in the last 3 years, if they had left California before that, the same number would have changed that election. If you come down here and now you look at New York and Illinois, you throw it. So we got 6 million extra Republicans in California, 3 million in New York, and 2 million in Illinois. And you can see that they're never going to be able to get anything done. They're never going to win. But they're moving to places like Florida and Texas, which, yeah, okay, there's a little bit of a concern that Texas might switch sometime, but really they're pretty solid. What we need are people in these states to take one for the team and stop moving into the places that are comfortable for conservatives. And I need to say, I don't blame you. I mean, every day I live in a purple state. Every day I think to myself, I need to move to Florida. I need to go to some place that knows the difference between a boy and a girl. I need to go to a place where you don't have to worry about political violence breaking out against you because you have a different viewpoint. But and I'm not saying that I'll never move, but for right now, I'm hanging in there. And you can see if we start flipping these states, I have it all ready to go here, so hopefully I can actually get to it faster than I was doing it before. And actually, I'm just taking longer. I had it all ready to go. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Just had to click to it here. Okay, so this is the 2020 map. And before I switch these over, I want you to see something here. At the very top, you see we have the option of changing. Oops, I gotta come over here and do it. Now I'm changing stuff here, which you probably don't notice because I'm doing it kind of fast. But this is the 2024 electoral votes. This is the way it lines up. And here's the 2020. And the difference now, if you look a little bit more carefully here, maybe move this up just a tad so you can see maybe a little bit better. Look at the electoral votes that Texas had in 2020. It's 38. Here it is in 2024. Now they have 40. So the next election, they're going to have another 2. Look at it again. Look at Florida this time. They had 29. This time they'll have 30. Okay, now let's go back. This is 2020. Look at California. They had 55. Now they have 54. Okay, let's keep going. Colorado. Actually, Colorado picked up one, huh? All right, well, look at Illinois. Illinois had 20. Now they have 19. New York. New York had 29. Now Florida has, uh, uh, New York now has one less. You see that Pennsylvania changed too, right? And the difference between these states then, now here we go. If you can remember the numbers, Georgia, Republicans only lost by about 12,000. Let's flip it. Pennsylvania lost by 80,000, allegedly. Flip it. Michigan by 150,000. Flip it. Wisconsin, 20,000. Flip it. Arizona, Nevada, 310,000 people made the difference. And you can see now that the Republicans win. So that's not a lot of people to alter the entire trajectory of things. Here's back to my spreadsheet. If you see over here, the Republicans spent $5.3 billion on campaigning for that year. If they would have spent that $15,000, $17,000 per person over here to help them move, just moving expenses, they would have thoroughly changed the dynamics of the country, but also these individual states, because some of these purple states are going a little bit crazy, a little bit nuts, and things aren't always on the up and up. There's a lot of concern about that too. So at any rate, we have the ability. People in these states are already thinking and desiring to get out, but they are tending to go in a direction that is not helpful. It's great for them, totally understandable. But I would encourage you, if you live in one of these states, make the hard decision to go to a place where your vote will make the difference. Go to Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. And what's going to happen is, if we go back and look at all the electoral count things again, I'm not going to flip through it because apparently I can't do it as fast as I wanted. California will have even fewer electoral votes. New York will have even fewer. Illinois will have even fewer. So their power and influence as states will become less and less. Whereas the states that you move into, their electoral influence will increase. So I'm just going to put that in front of you. Share this with people who live in these states who are thinking about moving. I know people who have moved, like to Florida, people who are trying to get out of Illinois as we speak. But most of them they want to go to the safe places. It's a war zone out there, and you have the ability simply by choosing to live in a different place, in a purplish state, to alter the trajectory of this country. And I would encourage you to do that. Thank you for watching. This is the Philosopher King 2.0. You can find me on Twitter as well, and I would encourage you to do so. I have a question over here. In your opinion, should we continue to have the Electoral College? It's a very, very good question. I will briefly answer it, and I thank you for the question. Yes, I think the Electoral College serves a very useful purpose. If you go back and you read in the Federalist Papers and other documents from that time, the whole purpose of the Electoral College, well, among other things, is to make sure that fraud doesn't happen. Because if you have, or at least you can minimize the damage that fraud can do, because it would be limited only to the one state. So if you make it completely an unpopular vote thing, just for example, okay, let's say we switch to just simple popular vote in California with its 10 million immigrants, illegal immigrants is the ones that we care about, right? somehow imports 10 million, and suddenly, for some reason that we don't know and we can't figure it out until afterwards, California, instead of having almost 18 million people vote in an election, has 28 million. By the time anyone figures out how to do it, you can't hardly prove that. Well, the election's already over. So you have this big clumping of illegal votes, presumably, in that area. And that affects the whole race. Okay. Now, what if you have an electoral college? Well, if 10 million extra people come flooding over into California and blow that out, now the damage is limited to those 55 electoral votes, right? So no matter how much you pump up the numbers in California, they're never going to be able to get more than that 55. The damage is limited to that 55. So I did not want to get into the discussion about whether or not these elections were stolen in these states. I find them all deeply suspicious. But look at where they happened. It just so happens that the states where the most fraud was alleged are also the states where the margins are the narrowest. And so, in order to perpetrate this action, um, how do okay? So, if you understand what I'm trying to say, is there were no concerns in places like Florida and Texas about election integrity, right? So, it's curious that was the case, because you would think that if there were problems with absentee ballots and mail-in ballots, if there was COVID things that were going on, if people didn't like the way that Trump handled his debate and they didn't, then you should have seen that around the whole country among conservative votes. But no, you saw a really good turnout in Florida and Texas. It was only in these swing states that there was even accusations of fraud, that things went crazy. So I think people figured out how to work the electoral college by targeting these states that were on the fringe. And that's kind of what I'm saying to do here, targeting the ones that are on the fringe, but doing so legally and ethically. Okay, we had a follow up. Um, wow. Okay, so someone was reporting that their son is a senior at a college in one of these liberal places. He says 90% of all the co-ed conversations include the words gender and or pronouns, and that really goes to my point that I censored myself with. I mean, these people have gone nuts. They're just crazy. They're delusional. They're dangerous, and they will turn violent. And so these steps of getting out of these places and into the purple places can reverse the culture itself. It's not just about winning an election, but about changing the direction of the country. Wow, I hear that. Yeah, I'm responding to stuff in the chat, and when you see this in the recording, you won't see these because I have that disabled unless I can figure that out. So I'm just going to affirm what this person just said. I hear that, and I sure wish that I could move south. I'd move to Florida and Texas in a heartbeat, but there's family reasons up here, and I do understand that by being up here in a purple state, I have some influence that I wouldn't there. Any other questions or comments? And I'll wrap this up. And I thank you for the participation too, by the way. All right. Well, I'm not going to belabor it. I made my point. I suppose if anybody wants this spreadsheet, they could easily reproduce it. But contact me on Twitter, and I will send it to you as an attachment. Be happy to do that. Make this argument with people who live in New York, Illinois, and California. And yeah, places like I mean, there's Massachusetts, Colorado. There's lots of places where a conservative, or we'll just call them a sane vote, because I really don't think this is a right versus left thing anymore. This is a reality versus delusional thing, and we need to behave accordingly. So pass this information along, pass this video along. Thank you for your time. Have a great evening. This is Philosopher King 2.0 signing off. Thanks again.